8 important signs many seniors show in the last year of life. Your loved one hasn't changed overnight. They still smile. They still talk. They still sit in the same chair. But something feels different. Not dramatic. Not obvious. Just subtle shifts that are easy to miss, until you look back and realize they mattered. Today, we're talking about 8 important signs many seniors show in the last year of life. These signs are not about fear. They're about awareness. Because when families notice early, they can respond with more patience, understanding, and love. Stay with me until the end, because the final sign is often misunderstood, and many families regret not recognizing it sooner. If you value calm conversations about aging, wisdom, and caring for those we love, you may enjoy this channel. You're welcome to subscribe. We share gentle knowledge that helps families navigate life more thoughtfully. Sign number 1, withdrawal from social life. One of the earliest signs is quiet withdrawal. It doesn't arrive loudly. There's no announcement. No dramatic change overnight. It begins softly. A senior who once looked forward to visits starts declining invitations. Maybe another day. I'm just a little tired. Phone calls that once lasted an hour now feel exhausting. Small talk feels unnecessary. Even familiar voices can feel like too much. From the outside, this change is often misunderstood. Family members worry. Friends assume the worst. They call it depression. They call it moodiness. They think something is wrong. But when many seniors describe it themselves, their words are different. They don't say they're sad. They say they're tired. Not tired in the way sleep can fix, but tired in a deeper, quieter way. As the body slows down, everything begins to require more energy than it once did. Getting dressed. Holding a conversation. Processing noise, laughter, overlapping voices. What once felt joyful can now feel overwhelming. Imagine your mind still sharp, your heart still full, but your energy budget smaller than before. You start choosing carefully how to spend it. This is what quiet withdrawal often is. Not rejection. Not bitterness. Not emotional distance. It's prioritization. Seniors begin conserving energy for what matters most. They may prefer one familiar face instead of a crowd. Silence instead of conversation. Stillness instead of stimulation. And here's the important part. When they withdraw, it's rarely about who is there. It's about how much it costs to be there. Noise can feel louder. Conversations move too fast. Laughter, even loving laughter, can feel heavy. So they step back. Gently. Quietly. And this is where well-meaning people sometimes make mistakes. They push activity. They insist on socializing. They say, you need to get out more. But what helps most in these moments is not forcing activity. It's offering presence. Presence without pressure. Sitting together in the same room. Sharing silence. Watching the light move across the wall. No expectations. No questions to answer. No energy required. For many seniors, this kind of presence feels safer than conversation. It says, I'm here. You don't have to perform. You don't have to explain. Sometimes, sitting quietly together means more than 1,000 words. Because quiet withdrawal isn't the absence of connection. It's a different language of connection. One that asks us to slow down, to listen without sound, and to love without demands. Sign number 2, changes in sleep patterns. Sleep is one of the first things to change. And one of the easiest to overlook. At first, it doesn't seem serious. A senior starts going to bed earlier than usual. Or they begin waking up before sunrise, and can't fall back asleep. Afternoon naps become longer. Nighttime rest becomes lighter. Family members often say, that's just part of aging. But for many seniors, sleep isn't just shifting. It's fragmenting. They may lie awake at night, not because they're worried, but because their body no longer settles the way it used to. The world grows quiet, the room is dark. Yet sleep doesn't come. Thoughts drift in and out, not anxious thoughts, just reflections. Memories. Old conversations. Moments from a lifetime replayed softly in the mind. Some seniors describe it as being awake, but not restless. Others say sleep feels shallow. Like floating on the surface instead of sinking into rest. And during the day, something else happens. They feel tired, but not sleepy. Energy comes in short windows. A burst of alertness in the morning. A slow fade by afternoon. Then wakefulness again late at night. This isn't laziness, and it isn't a lack of discipline. As the body ages, its internal clock, the circadian rhythm, becomes less stable. Hormones that regulate sleep, like melatonin, are produced differently. Deep sleep phases become shorter. The line between day and night begins to blur. Sleep becomes something the body negotiates with, instead of something it naturally falls into. This change can be confusing for families. They worry about insomnia. They suggest sleep aids. They push routines. But many seniors aren't struggling against sleep. They're adjusting around it. They listen to their bodies more closely now. If sleep comes at odd hours, they accept it. If wakefulness arrives early, they sit with it. There's also an emotional layer to these changes. Nighttime can feel reflective. When distractions disappear, thoughts have room to surface. Not regrets, just awareness. Awareness of time. Of change. Of what has been lived. And this awareness doesn't always bring sadness. Sometimes, it brings peace. What helps most here is not forcing normal sleep patterns. It's supporting comfort. Soft lighting. Familiar routines. Reassurance that being awake at night isn't a failure. Short rests during the day are not weakness. They're adaptation. Sleep in later years doesn't look the same. And it doesn't need to. It's simply another way the body begins to listen to itself. Sign number 3, reduced appetite. One day, the plate comes back half full. At first, no one worries. Maybe they're just not hungry today. But days pass. Portions get smaller. Favorite foods lose their pull. A senior who once enjoyed meals now eats slowly, or forgets to eat at all. From the outside, this can be alarming. Families fear illness. They urge, you need to eat more. But when many seniors explain it themselves, they don't talk about dislike. They talk about absence. An absence of hunger. As the body ages, the signals that once announced hunger begin to soften. The stomach empties more slowly. Metabolism shifts. Hormones that trigger appetite respond differently. Food is still food. But the urge to eat isn't as strong. There's also the quiet role of the senses. Taste buds dull slightly over time. Smell becomes less vivid. Meals that once felt comforting may now feel neutral. Not unpleasant. Just less compelling. And then there's effort. Preparing a meal requires planning. Standing. Timing. For someone whose energy is carefully managed, eating can feel like work. So they choose simplicity. A few bites instead of a full plate. Tea instead of dinner. Something easy, instead of something filling. This isn't refusal. It's conservation. Another part of reduced appetite is emotional, but not in the way people assume. It isn't always sadness. Often, eating is tied to social meaning. Meals were once shared. Tables were full. Conversation flowed. As circles grow smaller, eating alone can feel less important. So the body adjusts. What helps most here is not pressure. It's gentle offering. Smaller portions. Favorite textures. Familiar flavors. And most importantly, presence. Sitting together during meals matters more than the food itself. A shared moment can awaken appetite more than instructions ever will. Reduced appetite isn't a sign of giving up. It's the body asking for less, and asking kindly. Listening matters more than insisting. If this information feels helpful, then comment and consider subscribing and turn on the bell icon for all videos notification, and share this video as most families aren't taught these things. They learn them too late. We're here to share knowledge early, gently, and with care. Sign number 4, increased fatigue. Fatigue doesn't always arrive as exhaustion. Often, it arrives as heaviness. A senior who once moved through the day with steady rhythm now pauses more often. They sit longer. They rest between simple tasks. From the outside, it can look like slowing down. But from the inside, it feels like the body is asking for mercy. This kind of fatigue isn't fixed by a nap. It's deeper than sleepiness. As the body ages, every system works a little harder to do what once felt automatic. Muscles recover more slowly. The heart works with less reserve. Even breathing can require more awareness. So energy becomes precious. A walk to the kitchen. A conversation. A shower. Each one draws from the same limited supply. This is why many seniors begin planning their day around energy, not time. If they go out in the morning, they rest in the afternoon. If visitors come, the rest of the day becomes quiet. It's not avoidance. It's management. Another layer of fatigue is mental. Processing information takes more effort. Noise feels heavier. Decision-making becomes tiring. Even joy can be exhausting when the body is worn. That's why seniors may withdraw after moments that look happy. They enjoyed it. But it cost them. Families sometimes misread this fatigue. They encourage pushing through. They say, "You'll feel better if you stay active." And movement does matter. But so does permission to rest. Because this fatigue isn't laziness. It's the body reallocating strength. There's also a quiet emotional fatigue. A lifetime of experiences lives inside them. Losses. Memories. Wisdom. Carrying all of that requires energy too. So when fatigue increases, what helps most is understanding, letting rest happen without guilt. Allowing pauses without explanation. Measuring days by comfort, not productivity. Sometimes the most loving thing is not encouragement to do more, but reassurance that doing less is enough. Increased fatigue isn't a failure of strength. It's a sign that the body is working carefully and honestly. Sign number 5, less interest in possessions. It often starts quietly. A senior begins giving things away. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. Just small gestures. A favorite jacket offered to a grandchild. Old books placed neatly in a box. Drawers opened, then slowly emptied. At first, families feel confused. These meant so much to you. Why don't you want this anymore? From the outside, it can feel unsettling. As if something important is being let go. But inside, something different is happening. Possessions once represented usefulness, identity, or achievement. They marked stages of life. They held memories. They told stories. But over time, the meaning of ownership changes. Objects begin to feel heavy. Not physically, emotionally. Maintaining them requires energy. Cleaning. Organizing. Deciding. And as energy becomes precious, simplicity becomes comforting. Many seniors describe this shift not as loss, but as relief. They're not detaching because they no longer care. They're detaching because they've already cared enough. Memories don't live in shelves or closets. They live inside. And once that truth settles in, the objects themselves become less important. There's also a deeper layer. Letting go of possessions is often about order. A desire to leave things simple. Clear. Understandable. Not for themselves, but for the people they love. It's a quiet form of care. A way of saying, I don't want to leave you with weight. This shift isn't sadness. It's completion. A sense that accumulation has finished, and meaning no longer needs proof. What helps most here is not stopping the process. It's listening to it. Asking about the stories behind the items. Honoring what they once meant. Respecting the choice to release them, because less interest in possessions doesn't mean less attachment to life. It often means greater clarity about what truly matters. Time. Presence. Connection. In the end, it's not about having less. It's about needing less. Sign number 6, changes in communication. The words don't disappear. They simply become fewer. A senior who once talked easily may now pause longer before speaking. Sentences grow shorter. Stories are told more slowly, or not at all. From the outside, it can feel like distance. Family members wonder, why don't they talk like they used to? But for many seniors, communication hasn't stopped. It has changed purpose. Speaking requires energy. Listening requires focus. Responding requires processing. As the body slows, the mind becomes more selective. Not every thought needs to be spoken. Not every silence needs to be filled. Some seniors describe it as filtering. They speak when it matters. They listen more than they answer. And when they do talk, their words often carry weight. This change is sometimes mistaken for confusion or withdrawal. But often, it's neither. It's efficiency. Long conversations can feel overwhelming. Especially when topics move quickly or jump from one subject to another. Noise overlaps. Voices compete. Thoughts get interrupted. So seniors may retreat into listening instead of speaking. There's also the emotional side of communication. As awareness deepens, small talk can feel hollow. Polite conversations about weather, errands, or trends lose importance. What matters more are meaningful exchanges. Memories, values, moments that count. And sometimes, even those don't need words. Eye contact. A nod. A quiet presence. These become full sentences. What helps most is patience. Allowing silence without rushing to fill it. Giving time for words to arrive. Listening without correcting or completing sentences. When families slow down, communication often returns. Not louder, but clearer. Changes in communication aren't about losing connection. They're about refining it. Because in later years, words aren't wasted. They're chosen. If you believe small moments matter, you're in the right place. Subscribe if you'd like to keep learning how awareness shapes compassion. Sign number 7, increased sensitivity. It's not that emotions become stronger. It's that the filters grow thinner. A senior who once brushed things off may now react more deeply. To noise, to light, to tone of voice. Small sounds feel louder. Bright rooms feel harsher. Crowded spaces feel draining. From the outside, this can look like irritability. Family members may say, they're more sensitive than before. But what's really happening is overload. As the nervous system ages, it processes stimulation differently. Sounds linger longer. Visual input takes more effort. Emotional cues are felt more intensely. What once blended into the background now demands attention. Even well-meaning energy can feel like pressure. Fast speech. Raised voices. Sudden laughter. None of it is wrong. It's just more than the system wants to handle. There's also emotional sensitivity. Memories surface more easily. Words carry more weight. Tone matters more than intention. A casual comment can feel sharp. A rushed response can feel dismissive. Not because the senior is fragile, but because awareness is heightened. Life experience sharpens perception. What helps most here is gentleness. Softer voices. Calmer environments. Slower movements. Respecting the need to step away from noise without judgment. Asking instead of assuming. Increased sensitivity isn't weakness. It's the nervous system asking for kindness. And when that kindness is given, connection becomes deeper, not strained. Sign number 8, a shift in priorities. This change is subtle, but it touches everything. A senior begins saying no more often. Not out of defiance. Not out of disinterest. But out of clarity. Activities that once mattered feel optional now. Obligations lose their urgency. The need to stay busy fades. From the outside, it can look like withdrawal. But inside, it feels like alignment. Time begins to feel different. There's less desire to rush. Less need to please. Less patience for what doesn't feel meaningful. What replaces it is simplicity. Moments over milestones. Comfort over accomplishment, presence over productivity. Many seniors describe this shift as a kind of quiet awakening. They've spent decades meeting expectations. Working, providing, building, proving. Now, they're choosing what deserves their energy. Relationships narrow, but deepen. Conversations shorten, but matter more. Days slow, but feel fuller. This shift isn't about giving up on life. It's about finally living it on their own terms. They may care less about schedules, and more about sunlight through a window. Less about plans, and more about peace. This can be confusing for loved ones. Families may push involvement. They may worry about isolation. But what looks like disengagement is often contentment. The body may be slowing. But the mind is prioritizing. What helps most here is respect. Respecting their choices. Trusting their wisdom. Allowing them to shape their remaining time. Because this shift in priorities isn't a loss of purpose. It's a refinement of it. A quiet decision to spend life. Not on what's loud. But on what lasts. Health doesn't change in one moment. Life doesn't end in one day. It shifts quietly. Gradually. Gently. Recognizing these signs isn't about predicting anything. It's about responding better. With kindness. With understanding. With time. Thank you for being here. Your willingness to learn already makes you a better caregiver, a better listener, and a better human. Sometimes, the most important care is simply noticing.